Hi everyone. So in this session, I am going to talk about file handling in Python. What I mean by file handling is how we can use a Python program to create a file, write a file, read a file, and later on how to delete it as well. Okay. So let's note down the topics that we are going to cover. That is creating the file, or creating a file, writing a file, reading a file, and then deleting a file. Okay. So before we start with all these functionalities, let's understand what an open function is. So open function, out of all the functions in file handling, is the most important one because this is how we start the process from the very beginning. Okay. So within this open function, we have two parameters. First one is file details. So here we'll put in the information related to the file that we are going to deal with, say the file path and the file name. And the second one is mode. So what I mean by mode is different modes in which we have to deal with the file. So the different modes that are available in Python is X. So by X, what we denote is creating a file. By W, we mean we want to write a file. By R, we mean we want to read a file. And then we have A, which is nothing but appending the file. Okay. So that is all about modes. Now talking about file details. So by file details, I mean the file path and the file name. Okay, and out of both of these, file path is optional because um, I'll tell you why. So file path is, if you don't put in file path, so the Python program is going to create the file in the same path where the application itself is placed. So I'll show you. So this is where if I save the application here as session 7, so here only the file would be created if I don't put a separate path. Okay, I'll remove this. I'll start writing a program. So first of all, we have to create a variable which basically holds the instance of an open function. So we will write the file name here. The file name, whatever we want to put. Let's say we want to put file1.txt in our case. And since it does not exist, first we have to create it, right? So we'll put X as the mode. Then whatever is open, we have to close in the function itself. Okay, so whenever you use an open function, ideally we should always put in a close function with that. Okay, now if you save this, okay, I go to this directory here. I open cmd window. What is this? I have discussed already in this the previous sessions. Please go and look in those videos. Okay, fine. Now if I run this program, section 7.py, the program executed successfully, and I see a file 1 getting created in the same path. Now if I double click, I'll see there is no data. Okay, so what I'll do, in order to write anything into the file, we have to use the open function in the write mode. Okay, so I'll put the file name, and I'll put W, because W stands for write mode. Okay, and in order to write anything into the file, you have to use a write function here. Okay, so say I'll write, this is the first line, W, and I'll say one more line I'll put, this is the second line. Okay, I save this. I have to close it. Then I'll save this. I'll go back to my directory. I'll delete this file. I'll go to CMD. I'll execute this. Okay. Now again, I'll go back to my directory. I open this file. I see whatever I put in the write function has been written into the file. Okay. The only thing to observe here is the second line has been concatenated to the first line, which is not correct. So in order to handle this scenario, first of all, I delete this file. I go to the program and I use a \n here. So \n is a special character which stands for next line. Okay. Now if I save this, go to CMD. Okay. I run this program, I go back to my directory, I open this file, I see the data to be there. Okay, so this means I have successfully written the file with those two statements. Now I delete this file all over again. Okay, uh, let's see how all this while. So what we have been doing all this while is we are running this program, going to the file and checking the contents. Rather, uh, in our scenario now we want the contents to be printed once we execute this program. Okay, so for that we have to use the open function in the uh, read mode. Okay, so for that I put R. Okay, for read mode we don't have to mandatory put any mode because by default the mode is R. Okay, but for clarity I have put in the the read mode as R. Okay, so in order to print everything on our screen, I have to use a read function. So what I'll do is write a print function, and within that parenthesis, I'll use the read function. Okay. Now I save this. I go back to my CMD. I run this program, and yes, we see the output of the file right here in front of our screen. Okay. Now going back to the program. Say for example, I have to see the first 10 characters of the file. For that, I'll put this value as 10 within the parenthesis of read function. I'll save this. I'll go back here. I'll delete this file. Let's say, since we are continuously going there and deleting the file every time, let me handle that part in the code. Okay. Okay. So for that, I'll use a package that is OS. Okay. And I'll write something as if os path dot exists file1.txt, then os dot remove file1.txt. So what am I trying to do with this part of the code is that I am checking if there is something like file1.txt in that particular path. If it is there, then I am asking the Python program to remove it first before starting all these functionalities. Okay, so this is done. Now I save this. I go back to CMD. Okay, let me try what if I don't put this in. Okay, this will give you a better idea. Okay, so for now I have deleted it. Okay, I save this. I try executing this function. So for now we see that since we put 10 in the parenthesis of read function, we see the first 10 characters. Now if we try running it again, we see an error being thrown, which means basically the file already exists in the path. And in order to run this program, we have to first delete it. So why we are supposed to delete it? Because by this two statements the program is trying to create a file with the same name. Okay, so this is not going to happen. For that to be handled in the code itself, I am going to use this os package. So within this package, as I said, we are first checking the path. In the path we are checking if this file exists or not. If it exists, then we are going to remove it, and then we are going to start with our following functionalities. I save this, I go back here, I run my program. So here, as you see, I have not manually went to the directory and deleted the file. Rather, the code itself is handling it now. Okay, so as you can see, first 10 characters of the file has been printed here. Okay. Mhm. Now let's talk about a function that is read line. Okay, so using read line, we are going to read the first line of the file. Okay, let's see how this function performs. So we go back to the CMD, we run the program. Here we see the first line getting printed. So this is exactly what we wanted. Now using the read line, I want to print the second line also. In that case, I'll use the read line function again. I'll save this, I'll go back here, I'll run the program. You see the second line also getting printed. Okay, so this is how we use read line function. Now let's say we have hundreds of lines in the file, okay, and we have to read it using read line function, or for that matter, just have to read it. So how we are going to do it? Okay, one way of doing it is using the read function. The other way is we use a loop. Okay, so I am going to loop through this instance, that is r, and going to print I. Okay, going to print I. Now I save this, I go back here, I run this program. So you see on the screen that both the lines are getting printed now. I'll close this, open it all over again. Okay, I'll run the application all over again. You see both the lines are getting printed now. Okay, so that is one way of printing the contents. So if you're not that much aware of loops, I have a separate video for this in this playlist. Please go and have a look. So this is quite a lot that we have discussed about the file handling part. One more thing is, so instead of putting an instance like this, like we are creating a variable, then using a assignment operator, and then put using this function, we can do it using with operator as well. So how we do it is with open. Let me just comment this out, all these things. Okay, it'll give you a clear picture. Do we have any content in the file now? Yeah, we have. So using with, we'll open the same file, file1.txt. Let's say we are going to open it using the write mode as f or as w. Okay, and then we do w dot read. Okay, and I save this. I go back to my cmd. Okay, go back to my cmd. No, since we are going to read this, I have to put it as r. Okay, now I have to go back here. I'll run this program. Okay, why is it throwing an error? File one already exists. Okay, no such file. Okay, I deleted the file, that means. Okay, so for that I'll keep this part of the code. Okay, I'll keep this part of the code. Let's comment this out, and I'll keep, or rather I will first have to write it, right? I'm doing it. This is how we have to handle it. Okay, so we are opening the file, we are writing this content, and using the with operator this time around, we are reading the file. Okay, so I'll put r here. I'll save this. I'll go back to my cmd. Let me run this program. Okay, so there's some mistake, it seems. Oh, I have not used a print function. Yeah, okay. Now I go back here, I run this application all over. See, the contents have been printed. So this is also one way how we can basically instantiate the instance. Okay, so I have covered all the important parts of file handling. So let's meet in the next session where we'll probably discuss the oops concepts. Okay, thank you.